Well, good evening, everybody. It is Thursday. It is 6 p.m. I'm your host, Blair Nightingale. It must be time once again for Stock Talk Thursday. I am excited for Stock Talk Thursday. What is Stock Talk Thursday? Every Thursday, 6 p.m., we gather right here. We're going to look at three things. This is what we are always going to do on Stock Talk, unless we have a special episode. Every now and then, we're doing something different. And I look forward to those opportunities. But for the most part, this is your week's end, right? We got one more trading day of the week. This is your week's end, one-stop shop. What is happening in the market? What's hot? What's not? And what's the news item that I need to be paying attention to? Because remember, I'm just going to adjust my screen here for everybody. Remember that there is so much news out there, guys. So much news. And I say this all the time. We ought to look for one major, maybe two, sometimes maybe two, but usually one major news item that is driving the market. Of course, that's going to change from week to week, sometimes day to day, but usually on a bigger time frame if it's really the one major news item that matters. And instead of getting sucked into hours of looking at other posts and websites and blogs and articles and all this stuff, there's so much noise. I want to bring you in and identify that one news item that's going to be most helpful for you, not just as a general investor, right? But as a trader. What is Wall Street really paying attention to? So we're going to talk about that tonight. As always, if you are joining live, please go ahead, drop your name in the comments, ask any question you want to ask. It is open season around here on Stock Talk Thursday because I want to hear from you. I want to know what you want to know, okay? That is always fun to hear from you, know where you're from, what's going on, where you're at. We've got people from coast to coast, north to south, all around the country, sometimes at other places in the world. Love to hear from you guys. And of course, if you have any questions, chances are somebody else who's watching this has got the same question. So I invite you to be the brave one who comes up first and says whatever your question might be as we go along, even if it's not specifically connected to something that I'm talking about at that moment in time, okay? You're going to want to know what's hot, what's not, and where are we going in the news? Cindy from Alaska. So like I said, all over, right? Cindy from Alaska, way out there. What's it like in Alaska right now, Cindy? It must be, I would think it'd be gorgeous right now in Alaska. And on some level, it's easy to say that Alaska is always gorgeous, although I know what a harsh winter feels like, but I'm sure it's pretty beautiful up there right now. So appreciate that, Cindy. Thanks for chiming in. Let me know if you have any questions, you need anything. We're going to look at some charts here tonight. And we're going to talk about a few different things in the news as well. First up tonight, what is hot? What's hot out there? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make sure we have a visual here. I want to bring up the chart so that y'all can follow along with me. Cindy says it's absolutely beautiful in Alaska right now. Okay. Let me go ahead and change that. Let's do this. Tradeway has done many trips, right? We've done trips to different places. We teach strategies. We do trips. Our founder, David Mitchell, is very much about getting out of the scenery that we're in, getting into another place, doing some intense learning. And certainly Alaska has been on that list. I think it was almost every 3 years or something they would do that. I've personally never gone on that trip, but I know that's their favorite. Of all the places that they've gone is Alaska. So I believe you when you say that it's absolutely beautiful. Jeffrey says, howdy, howdy. 68 and raining in Colorado Springs. You know, if you haven't learned this by now, everybody, Jeffrey's going to bring us the weather report. So if you need to know what the weather is in Colorado for any particular reason, you ought to chime in on Stock Talk Thursday. So, okay, you're looking at the S&P now. I'll give you a little snapshot of that. Now, we're not covering the S&P tonight specifically, But what I do want to show you is two stocks. Now, we usually only go over one stock, but I want to show you two hot stocks because I think there's some interesting things that I want to bring out for you guys. Remember, I'm speaking to traders tonight, right? We're not just talking about long-term buy and hold investing. We're talking about the skill set of trading. So keep that in mind. I want to jump on over. We've had some very newsworthy stocks in the last little while, okay? Things that are absolutely getting killed, right? Things that are moving maybe like gold because the market isn't doing well. There's a major move, and so gold is increasing, things like that. Well, I thought this would be interesting to look at Google tonight because I want you to just look at that chart. And I want somebody to tell me if there's any confusion about what direction that stock is moving over the course of time. That's essentially from the beginning of the year until now. You say, well, late April, we definitely saw some move down in late April, basically right in the middle of the screen there. And I would agree. It pulled back, but it pretty much pulled back the way it had been, right? It just makes these moves up and then down to the 50, up and down to the 50, up. Now, 2 days ago, and this is what I thought was really interesting. This is just Google. Now, there are other tech stocks. The tech industry has been hot. It's been doing well. We've talked about that, right? It's had some volatility, but overall, tech has been doing very well. Google, up and away, says Jeffrey. And that's pretty much what it's been doing. And I wanted to pull this out because, Google is one of what we call the FANG stocks. It's the G in FANG. So Google is maybe not the one that's coming across in the news as much, and in some ways maybe not as popular or comes up as much as Facebook, as even Netflix, some of the other stocks that are really popular that come up. Part of that reason is you can see this is a $2,500 stock. Okay, so that's not lost on me today. This is an expensive stock. Most of us are not going to be trading in this stock. And if we are, we're using specific options strategies. That means we don't have to buy shares of the stock. You say, wait a second. If I can trade options, I'm not buying shares of the stock. That is correct. That's why we say options have tremendous leverage. You can do some things with less money than what you would have to do if you were buying the stock outright. If you were, you'd be paying $25, $45, $64 for a share of Google. Now, Google is really hot. Now, keep this in mind, all right? Let's go ahead and just zoom this out a little bit. Okay, here we are in March of 2020, right? That's the low, right? That's the low of the COVID slide, if you want to call it that. $9.97. Okay, that's still pretty expensive, right? But less than $1,000 a share at the bottom of COVID. Now, even before then, to be fair, even before, $1,500, and in that time, it's up $1,000. So Google just continues to be a dominating force, which makes it very interesting. This is not our news item for the week, but I would not be giving the full story here if I didn't include, Google has been under the microscope, both the federal government here in the United States, but also now in the European Union, under antitrust laws, right? Basically monopoly laws. Are they infringing? Are they too big? Are they too powerful? Are they not playing by the rules we have for competition within our economic cultures, as it were? Again, the EU, and then of course the United States. And then the stock, this has happened multiple times, these governments announce that they're actually going to be going after Google, and the Google stock goes up. So the confidence in investors and traders that Google, even if it takes a hit, is going to continue to be the choice that people are going to use as a default search engine. For example, they pay a lot of money to Apple, a lot of Apple products. Most of you guys out there, statistically speaking, have an iPhone near you as we speak, right? You may be watching on an Apple computer. There's all kinds of Apple devices. And the default search engine on many of those, they pay money that it would be it would be Chrome. It would be a Google web page, I should say, web page that comes up, even if it's not the default browser. So that's pretty significant. Even if they lost that, people might still choose Google. So that not as important for us as traders, but we ought to be aware of it on some level. The stock remains hot despite those kinds of things coming down the pipeline. And where I've seen some other stocks have some real ebb and flow, Google is just continuing to just smash through the charts. So definitely hot on the side of Google, even in the face of some bad news. And that's a very interesting thing. Now, I said I wanted to show you two tonight. I want to show you this one tonight, okay? Now, this made a big move today. This was a 16% move from the trade desk today. But that's not the only thing I want to say. Yeah, sure, that's hot. And if you look at the chart, you can say, well, okay, that's a big move. It's been making a big move. It found a bottom here at 48 bucks. And here we are, not even a month later. And we topped out today at 78 bucks. That's massive. That's a huge move. But you might say, Blair, it's actually moving down. I mean, look at this. That was hot. Now, and that is, I mean, that's stratospheric. That was hot. And then it started doing this. What is this? Well, some of you guys out there know exactly what that is. That is a downtrend. That's a downtrend. Why do I call it a downtrend? Because it's trending down. Oops, I just deleted my line. We're going at 100 miles an hour here tonight on Stock Talk Thursday. Remember, you can always check in on Market Mondays. Watch the past broadcasts. Be checking in there. That is a free resource for you where we go over all kinds of market stuff. And then, of course, you can join a lot of our friends who are already commenting in the comments tonight who are in our programs, right? We teach people how to do this. This is a skill set. We want to help you get to where you want to go. That's what we help do in our full-time memberships. So there's more information to be known here for sure, but this is a downtrend. Textbook, lower highs, lower lows. That's a downtrend. You say, Blair, if it's moving down, then why are you saying this for Stock Talk Thursday, hot stock? Well, it went up 16% for starters. I mentioned that already, and that's a very hot stock. But not only that, I want you guys to notice it broke out of the downtrend, right? That move broke out of the downtrend. Now, it is at a previous price level right here. That was the previous high. That's exactly where it stopped. That shouldn't surprise us. Once we learn to recognize those things, it can really help us manage risk. It's almost like when you look at a chart and you haven't been trained to look at a chart yet, everything that I can see on the chart is in front of you at the exact same time. It's all there. But if we don't know what to look for, it doesn't help us, right? It's like putting on the glasses, and the glasses show us exactly what we need to see. Everything was already in front of us, just couldn't see it. And that's what we do. We teach you how to see it, because if you can see it, you can act on it. And if you can act on it, then you can have an edge in the market over time. That is the goal of trading. So this guy is hot, but it's not just hot because it went up big today. It's hot because it broke this downtrend. It broke out of this trend. I don't know if it's going to establish an uptrend yet, right? We don't know that. It's a pretty big move, a pretty good indication that that could happen. That, my friends, is what is hot. What is that ticker? Cindy said. Thank you, Jeffrey, for answering that. DuckDuckGo.com is a good alternative to Google if you're tired of being tracked. Yes, I've used DuckDuckGoogle myself pretty extensively as a search engine, if you guys want to swap that out. But yes, TTD. Yes, TTD is the ticker on this particular chart right here. Remember, guys, if you guys are watching this and you feel like there's somebody else out there that maybe wants to see this, you can go ahead and drop their name in the comments, tag them, send it on over to them, let them know, because it'll be helpful for them as well. That's the first one. Now, from there, I want to show you what's not hot. we've had the opportunity to cover this some on this show. And I want to show you Bitcoin. Bitcoin, not so hot. It's been doing well, and there's a little bit of a bounce here. We may have found somewhat of a bottom right there around 3,100 bucks. Or I shouldn't say 3,100. I wish 3,100, 31,100 on Bitcoin. Okay, taking a tumble from 64,000. Okay, so more than half the value gone in a very short amount of time. And that is the volatility of Bitcoin. We've done an entire episode. In fact, we've done multiple entire episodes on Bitcoin so far. So make sure to refer back to that if you're wondering what on earth is Bitcoin? What is cryptocurrency? What we do need to know is that there are specific, to put it lightly, risks, I would even say dangers in investing and trading in Bitcoin. You hear stories, and this is true in the stock market, for those who don't know what they're doing, putting tremendous amounts of risk into these markets, and they're attracted to them because there is tremendous volatility. Volatility is really, in simple, just large swings, movement in the stock. They make big moves. The meme stocks we've looked at, Wall Street bets, we've done a whole episode, in fact, multiple whole episodes on those in the past as well. And those are just hugely volatile. AMC, GameStop, things like that. It attracts people because the potential for massive profits is there because of that volatility. Well, Bitcoin works somewhat the same way. It's just that Bitcoin has become more expensive in recent times because of that incredible growth, that not everybody can invest in Bitcoin in a significant way. Now, of course, you don't have to buy entire coins of Bitcoin. You can buy them in partial coins, whatever amount you want to pay. But of course, you don't get the same leverage out of it if you did that. So there are unique risks in that volatility. It's not only volatility to the upside. Remember, it can be tremendous volatility to the downside. In fact, in just a minute, I'm going to show you a coin that made the single biggest, fastest drop that I have ever seen in a coin ever. And this would be for a stock too. I've never seen anything come down this far, this fast. So unique risks. And again, we talked about this in our Bitcoin cryptocurrency episodes that we previously did. You can find cataloged on YouTube. So head on over to Tradeways YouTube and you can see that there. So Bitcoin running into some trouble, hitting some hot water. What happened here? In short, China, big part of Bitcoin. China says we are cracking down on Bitcoin. We're tracking down on We're cracking down on Bitcoin trading and Bitcoin mining. Mining happens on computers and it's a complicated thing, but that is actually what you do. You mine Bitcoin with computers. It takes a tremendous amount of energy, time, computer power, and the government is saying we're cracking down on this because it's too susceptible to criminal activity. That's what they say. I find it interesting that the Chinese government at the same time says that they actually want to create their own coin. So they're going to try to get rid of what the people are using and doing and trading and introduce their own coin from a centralized power. So that's the Chinese position. Now, they've said this in the past, at least on some level, maybe not as aggressive as this time. And the market mostly shrugged it off at the time because they didn't really enforce it. Well, they're saying this time, we're going to do it. We're going to enforce it. That was released and the Bitcoin market took a slide. So that's part of what's happening here. Bitcoin, I bring it up, Tradeway, we don't teach crypto. We don't focus on crypto, but we know that crypto is a big part of the investing conversation. It's part of the trading conversation. It's part of the money conversation in 2021. Hey, post-COVID, we've got cryptocurrencies, meme stocks, interest rates, all kinds of stuff going on. And it's good. It's good to learn this stuff and know how is this working? Because this knowledge, we like to say, just quoting the scripture, knowledge is better than gold, right? When we learn about these things, we can start to see the opportunities, as I mentioned earlier, that are in front of us, but we didn't know it. And so this is a huge part of that, just understanding what's going on in the greater financial world. And that is Bitcoin. Now, I mentioned that I was going to show you a stock that dropped faster than anything I'd seen. So I'm going to stop the screen share here so I can get you over to my other tab. So I want to show you this. I want you to be able to see this, okay? Now, I will say, before researching this, I personally have previously never heard of this particular coin, okay? So just to recap really quick, Bitcoin is sort of the flagship crypto, okay? Crypto is a kind of currency, and Bitcoin is one of those currencies. But there are many cryptocurrencies, okay? It's not a regulated, centralized currency, which is what is attractive about it to a lot of people. That is also what makes governments nervous. That's another conversation for another time. But that does mean that there are many coins out there, and this coin in particular, I had never heard of. Never heard of it. But I won't forget it now. And this is a good way to, I was going to say, are we on the right chart here? Okay, so this is a 24-hour visual of this coin. It's actually a token. This is the iron titanium token. Okay, I believe Mark Cuban. I'm here just outside of Dallas. He's, the big Mavericks billionaire around here. You'll hear Cuban's name quite a bit. He apparently was a part of this, got burned on this. I don't know a lot of the details. I can't comment on that totally, but there's some kind of a connection there. So this isn't, completely unknown asset, but it did have something pretty dramatic happen. So what we're looking at here is the 24-hour. You say, Blair, is that as many zeros as it looks like? And some of you who are looking a little deeper on the screen right now you're going to see something that, is shocking. Okay. But trust me, it's even worse than you think it is. Stock Talk Thursday, the iron titanium token is absolutely not hot. I don't know if you can get any further than not hot than this token. Now, you'll notice the price, even, on the 24th here or earlier, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got about 8 zeros on the right side of the decimal. This is fractions of a penny. Okay, it is worthless. It is in essence, absolutely, totally, abundantly, completely worthless. Not technically, but almost. Zero. For those of you who are jumping ahead of me, you might want to look on over here, where the all-time high was $64.19 per token. And what's the date just below 64.19? Well, of course, June 16th. Only to find, I love this, an all-time low at June 17th, the very next day. Okay, look at how many zeros are added. I don't even know how to pronounce that number. There's the zeros, right? It is worthless. Now, let me show you this. We're going to go to the 14-day. There's the 14-day chart, right? Just a line chart. I could probably change that. No, this is better. So here we are. Let's look at this for a sec. And we're going to spend a lot of time on this. I just want you to see this. This is crypto, right? This is the Wild West corners of crypto. This is the risks. Okay, these are the different things. It's not to say we've never had stocks plummet, but at Tradeway, we don't teach penny stocks. Okay, sometimes I get questions about penny stocks. What's a penny stock? Penny stock in the stock market trading below $1, right? Now, on the major exchanges, you've got to maintain a certain level of value, or you'll be delisted from the exchanges. You guys might remember the Movie Pass company a few years back that imploded basically through bad management. But Helios Matheson owned them. It absolutely skyrocketed, and then it plummeted below $1. And they fought. It was a big news item for a little while to stay above $1. They couldn't do it, and they were delisted. Does that mean you can't buy that stock at all? No, it doesn't mean that. You can buy it, but then it's become what we call OTC, over the counter. You don't buy it from the exchanges, and that's another conversation for another time. But there are risks to the penny stocks. Again, people are attracted to the penny stocks. Why? Because of the leverage. If a stock is worth 8 cents, just think, Blair, how many shares I could buy. I could put $10,000 into that. And if it goes up even 10 cents, look at how much I'm going to make, right? It's the leverage. Coins work the same way. But we've got to keep in mind that this is also an unregulated market, and it has its own unique risks, I'm going to say, right? So that's very similar in some ways to what we talk about when we talk about the OTC or penny stock market. So Jeffrey says, I would rather have a rusty nail than an iron titanium token. Just think that. Iron titanium token. It just almost rolls off the tongue, and yet it's pretty hard on the wallet, I think we could say. Now check this out. June 16th. This is at 1:01 in the morning. $63.72. Now I want you to keep this in mind, okay? At 8 o'clock at night, you go to bed. You shut your computer down. You're winding down for the night. It's at $38.54. And overnight, it's up to $63.72. You've doubled your money in just a few hours, right? 8 o'clock to 1 o'clock in the morning. Not very long, not a bad payday, right? Maybe you get an alarm on your phone. Oh, $63.72. Wow. If you don't jump out of your bed and sell it, you go back to sleep. Well, let's take a look here. That was 1 in the morning. 1 in the morning. Now we're going to 5 in the morning. It is now worth $33. It's below where it was when you went to bed nice and early at 8 o'clock the previous night. You get up in the morning and see 9 o'clock. Check the price. Don't look at the chart. $51. Oof, man, pulled back a bit. I guess that's to be expected. It goes up. It doubles overnight. It's probably going to pull back a little bit. That's at 9 o'clock in the morning. By 9 o'clock that night, it is absolutely, utterly, and completely worthless. Not as worthless as it is right now, but pretty darn worthless. Okay, so why am I showing you this? Well, I can tell you, the iron titanium token, it might sound good, but it doesn't look good to me. It's really, really, really low, and it lost it really fast. This is not necessarily to say that all crypto coins are going to do something like this, but this is the kind of stuff that happens. In the US stock market, there are systems in place that if you were in a stock that began to drop the way this dropped, you know what would happen? It would automatically halt trading for the day. Okay? Now, it wouldn't halt trading for the day immediately. There are several what are called breakers, meaning they would slow it down. It would stop the trading for 10, 15 minutes. It would do that multiple times. And then if the drop continued, then it would stop for the day. The entire market itself has that kind of a breaker. The major indexes do, but then individual stocks do as well. We've seen that on the meme stocks recently, the AMCs and the GameStops, whether they're going up or down, right? There are breakers. Those things are in place to protect you and me. And that is one of the benefits of having a market that has some of that regulation. Now, I hesitate personally when I say there's regulation that's good. It's not that I believe that no regulation is good. It's over-regulation that we're wary of. However, some of these things are in place and they're very helpful. They're very helpful. So That does not exist here for the iron titanium token. So I'm going to go ahead and close that down. We'll bring this back up here. That is Google, the trade desk, China, Bitcoin, that token that we've already forgotten what it even is called because it's worthless. And that's the crypto market, man. That is just not hot this week, okay? And when Bitcoin, I'll just say this last thought, when Bitcoin drops, it's not a market index, but it tends to be somewhat of a leading indicator on what's happening in overall crypto trading, okay? Bitcoin has definitely been that flagship coin, as I said. So watching Bitcoin when you're looking at the crypto market is very helpful. You know, on the news front, we really finished out last week and we talked about this coming off of the Fed, okay? Coming off of the Fed. So the Fed has talked about interest rates and they surprised us a bit saying we're looking at some interest rate hikes coming sooner. So what we need to do now that the market has digested that some, it's broken up today into all-time highs. In fact, as I'm talking about this, I will go ahead and put the S&P chart back on the screen. Let me go ahead and share it with you guys. Bingo. All right. So we're back into all-time highs here. Looking at a little bit of a different slope here on the S&P. We'll see how that plays out early next week. But we've got to just watch what's the conversation on interest rates going to continue to be. A major infrastructure bill passed today. It hasn't been signed into law, so we'll see if it breaks down or if it actually goes through or not. But that may shape up to be something. So far, I'm not seeing the market necessarily pay a lot of attention to that. I think they're still going to be more fixated on inflation numbers, interest rates, what the Fed has to say as time goes on here. Because if we continue to see an increase in inflation and numbers are coming out that says inflation is continuing to increase, we're seeing goods and services continue to increase in price. That's something you and I are going to notice. Then the market may anticipate that the Fed is going to have to be even more aggressive than they thought. If that comes into the conversation, very likely that we're going to see more volatility in the coming days. For now, market pretty hot, up into all-time highs. It's hard to say that the market's not hot when you're blasting into all-time highs, which is what happened today. The market gapped up at the open and moved up about 25, 26 points through the day. So that was the S&P 500 hitting a new high. Danny says, am I too late for the chat? I don't know if you meant chart or if you meant chat, but you certainly haven't missed it. And you're going to be able to watch all of this on recording regardless. NASCAR All Out. I haven't seen NASCAR All Out before. So welcome to the show. Can you take a look at BON? I have a funny feeling about this one for tomorrow. Let's go ahead and take a look. Let's go ahead and just take a quick look at a stock. So what do we have here? Thanks for sending that in. You say, I have a funny feeling for that one tomorrow. Now, I don't know what the feeling is specifically, but I know that the way we approach this is to say, I am going to look at what it will likely do based on what I've seen it do repeatedly in the past, right? Now, what happened in the past does not guarantee it will do something in the future. That's not what we expect from trading. Sometimes that's how people say, oh, trading doesn't work. But we don't actually expect to know what's going to happen just because we can see what has happened. What trading is controlling ourselves and using probabilities over time, which sounds complicated. It's actually not, because what we're going to do is use patterns that we can see. And in this chart, I don't see a pattern yet. This is what we call an IPO. So it's had its initial public offering just today, right? Today was the first day of trading, which tends to be a pretty volatile day. It opens at 626. It trades as high as 1052, which is pretty significant. That's a pretty significant move. But again, on an IPO, the initial day, there's usually quite a bit of volatility, and we're not sure, right? We're not sure if the market is willing to pay this, or if they are willing to pay more, when. When are they willing to pay more? So we need to watch for a pattern to emerge. For me right now, if I was going to buy this and it was not a long-term position, meaning you know this company, you like this company, and you have a belief that the company is going to grow over time, and thus the stock will reflect that, that would be investing. On the trading side of things, you really don't have much to go on here, right? You don't have much to go on. What you do have to go on is a high and a low. At 629, that's where the stock opened today. So if you break 629 tomorrow, the next day, then you are in truly uncharted territory at that point. What's the next price level to stop? What's the next price level where buyers have come into the trade to stop the fall from going further? You won't know because you don't have that data yet, right? I wouldn't know because I don't have that data yet. It doesn't show anything below 629. So I would watch this, let it play out. You say, this is a great company. I like this company. I think it's going to do well. I don't want to buy it for the long term, but I'm looking to trade it. You can put this in your watch list, hang around, stalk the trade, as we say, wait for some kind of a pattern to emerge, and then you can look at trading the stock. Of course, if you're looking to learn what kind of patterns can I trade, that's exactly what we teach in our programs. And you can start with our step one, start your journey right there at tradeway.com on the main page, and you can sign up. Bond is a Chinese low float IPO. Yes. Yes. So you see some similar price action. I'm going to pop this up here so folks can see this. IPO. Okay. So again, I said initial public offering, and the price action seems very similar to WNW on IPO day, right? It ran from 10 to 160 in the next 2 days. So that would be obviously massive volatility. And that's something that you could say, I've mentioned in some of our webinars lately. When you see some of these stocks doing that and you say, I have an amount of money that I would like to risk, right? I've decided and I've defined the amount of money I want to risk, and I'm willing to get into a trade that can be more of a coin toss, right? I don't have a probability or a pattern to inform that. I just am saying, like you've mentioned here, it did this over here on this chart. It's a similar company. I'm wondering if it's going to do the same thing. You say, all right, how much am I willing to risk on that? How much am I willing to lose on something like that? Trading in particular is all about defining the risk. What's my risk return? How well can I do on this stock? So that's what we would do. We would start to look at that. Just because it happens on one, of course, doesn't mean it has to happen on the other. And I believe you understand that. And so it would just be a matter of managing the risk there and knowing that, sometimes trying to grab onto a rocket ship, we can get our arms torn off, right? Because that volatility can go both ways. Now, I'm just going to say this, AMC, take that for example. Some of these stocks that have blown up, is that to say that nobody's made any money in AMC? Well, of course not, right? Those things have exploded. And you just want to know that you're managing risk, that if you're going to take risks like that, you understand what you're doing, what you're getting into, when you're going to get out, when you're going to cut your losses. I mentioned Movie Pass earlier, and I read some really, really sad stories about folks that put tremendous amounts of money into these stocks because they just, for one reason or another, believed that it was just going to keep going up or was going to do a certain thing, and then it didn't, and it was devastating. It was devastating. And these stories are real. People do engage in these kinds of activities. And of course, that's something we don't want to see here at Tradeway. This stock could absolutely blow up, right? It could absolutely skyrocket. It could plummet. At this point, for a consistent trade, I don't see it. But to say, I know this industry, this sector, this is how these tend to perform. And if the stock does X, Y, Z, then I'm willing to risk this defined amount of money. That's always an approach you can do. Jeffrey says, what does low float mean? So in short, essentially, the float is the amount of shares that they've made available to the market, right? Publicly. This is an initial public offering, meaning the company is just for the first time offering this stock to you and me to be traded on the public exchanges, right? That's what an initial public offering is. Well, how many shares, right? How many shares are being made available? That would be the float. That's the float of shares, right? Recently, AMC did a share sale, right? They have released, because remember, AMC now, they were way down here. They've exploded up here. And the executives over at AMC said, you know what we ought to do? We ought to sell some shares. I mean, our stock is extremely high. We ought to sell some shares and raise some money. So what did that do? Well, it made them some money. In fact, I can't say for sure. If somebody out there knows, you can correct me. I don't know if they've actually done the sale yet. But what that's going to do is it's going to add more shares to the float, right? There'll be more shares sold on the market, which means that there's more supply, right? So it can drop the price of the stock when that is done. If they sell too many shares, then of course it evens out theoretically because there is more supply, right? So then they won't cost as much. And I can't even quote how many shares AMC did, but that would be an example of changing the float, okay? Changing the float. So that is what NASCAR All Out. NASCAR All Out. I love that because it just doesn't leave much question. I mean, we just know. We just know. I love that. It's a low float IPO. So we'll see. That'll be very interesting. Maybe what we ought to do is check in next week. We'll come back and take a look at Bond, and we'll see. And I know folks out there will probably be following this as well. So thanks so much for sending that in. Everybody out there, trade safe, trade smart, trade happy, get some training. I want to say this. In 2 weeks, we have our 5-day faith and finance challenge coming up, okay? I did one of these back in the spring, and I am excited that I'm going to be able to offer this to you guys. Again, 5-day faith and finance. So once we get off here, I'm going to go ahead and post that to the Facebook page, okay? If you want to join me, free 5-day challenge, faith and finance, we're going to dive into what it means as a believer to begin to engage money in a healthy way, a biblical way, where God stays the main thing, the one thing, and we use finances as a tool, and also help partner with you to see some major transformation and shifts in money in your own life. 5-day faith and finance challenge that's coming up in July. I'm going to post the link on the Facebook page once we get off the broadcast here so that you guys have it. With that said, everybody, thanks so much for being on here. Appreciate you guys. Actually, I think I have this link right here for you guys. I didn't think I had it handy, but I'm going to pop it right in the chat. So there you go, guys. Over at YouTube, Facebook, you've got the link. You can sign up right there. Free challenge, 5 days. Come be with me. We're going to do interviews with the coaches. I'm going to teach. We're going to get into it. I'm going to challenge you too. This is not called a challenge for no reason. So I'm going to bring you in, and hopefully we're going to turn some things around. I'm expectant. Hope you are too. Thanks so much for being on tonight, giving me 43 minutes and 44 seconds of your time. I appreciate it. And if we don't see you in the challenge, we will see you on Monday coming up. And then we will start the week off right with Market Monday. Thanks, guys.